All right, we're going to get started here. Welcome. This is week 2, live lecture 1. And hopefully many of you are getting the feedback that I gave to you from week 1 and enjoying this first step of the process of your content strategy. I saw a lot of great work coming in for week 1, which is nice to see. So good job. A lot of strong kind of processes that I went through to see your, kind of the next steps that you're going to follow through with week 2. So hopefully you guys are, finding that that was very helpful going forward. And now we're going to be creating your infographics from scratch. Good job on the discussions as well. And I thought this discussion and your assignment from week 1 and continuing on into week 2, kind of all very relative, because your discussion primarily focused around the pros and cons of template versus custom infographics. So you guys had the opportunity to play around with that as far as the template, creating a template, going onto an actual website with a template for assessment 1, creating your infographics based on the information given to you. So, it was nice to not only discuss this in week 1 to see, what your thoughts were on the pros and cons, but also to kind of actually do it, practice it. And then we're going to be doing custom infographic for week 2. So you'll see kind of both sides of template versus custom and the pros and cons of each. All right, so in week 2, we're going to do just like a list of objectives here that you guys will be walking away from week 2. Discuss how data visualization relates to the perception of information using graphics. Utilize a vector graphing tool to add pictures and symbols to graphs. And design an infographic that visually presents data as a clear and understandable story. Remember, you're telling a story in your infographic. So you should have a beginning and an end, kind of like a conclusion. It should be visually interesting, yet, short and sweet, kind of being visually and verbally supportive, crystal clear in what the message is. And the viewer should be able to follow through very quickly and easily through your infographic, kind of understand the facts a little bit better because they're seeing it visually and also verbally. All right, before we go forward here, let's go ahead and look into Canvas and see exactly what we're going to be doing. So if you click in week 2, this is where you'll actually see those learning objectives that I just went through here. There's a little short video here we can play as well.
So you have your idea, you've done your research, and you've collected your data. You're probably wondering what type of infographic design will best represent and communicate your information. As you think about your infographic design, consider these 7 common types of infographics. Number 1, the list infographic supports a claim through a series of steps. It is best used to support a specific claim or argument. Your list can go from top to bottom, left to right, or it can even move across your canvas. Number 2, the comparison or versus infographic compares 2 things in a head-to-head study. It is best used to highlight differences between 2 similar things or highlight similarities between 2 unlike things. It is also used to prove how one option is superior or inferior to the other option. Number 3, the flowchart infographic provides a specific answer to reader choices. It is best used to provide personalized answers for readers or show how multiple situations can reach the same conclusion. Number 4, a visual article infographic makes a piece of writing more visual. It is best used to cut down on text or make an article more interesting and enjoyable to consume. It also increases sharing potential through social media. Number 5, the map infographic showcases data trends based on location. It is best used to compare places, culture, and people through setting-centric data and demographics. Number 6, the timeline infographic tells a story through chronological flow. It is best used to show how something has changed over time or make a long, complicated story easier to understand. It can also show how one thing leads to another. Number 7, a data visualization infographic communicates data through charts and graphs. It can even showcase data through design. It is best used to make data-driven arguments easier to understand and make facts or statistics more interesting to absorb. Which type of infographic will best represent your information? Tell us in the comments section below. Find these professionally designed infographic templates and much more in Easily Pro.
Okay, so yeah, we actually, Easily Pro was one of the options that you guys had, oops, sorry, let's go back here, as your template software choices. So kind of interesting to see it broken down into the 7 options there. For this particular project that you're going to be working on week 2, probably number 7 would be, I mean, you could kind of maybe mix or match, but number 7 would probably be your best bet with the visual data visualization, because you're giving a lot of numbers and percentages. So anyway, I just wanted to go forward with that. I thought that was kind of a very short and sweet video, just showing the different styles of infographics. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to skip through here this next slide. Let's take a look at your discussion. Some of you guys already got started since we're kind of starting the live lectures a little later here this week, which is great to see. So get your initial post in by midnight tonight for possible full credit. So basically, what makes an infographic successful is what we're going to be looking at in discussion 2. So the prompt pretty much goes to research what makes an effective or unsuccessful infographic and post 1 sample of each, effective and ineffective. Compare the 2 and explain your thoughts on the key reasons why one is successful and the other one is not. Some aspects to explore are, what are you getting out of the story it is telling? Maybe you're not getting anything. Maybe it's confusing. Maybe it's right away, you get it right away. How do design principles apply? You know, talk about the design principles. You know, when we go back to the foundation, think about how contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity have to do with, you know, that particular infographic. Is it working? Is it not working? And talk about those principles specifically. What impact does the color and typography choices have? You know, maybe the typography doesn't quite go with the message and it's confusing. Or maybe it goes it unifies very nicely because it relates to the topic. Talk about the color in that same regards. You know, maybe the color doesn't make sense for whatever the infographic that you're showing that isn't as effective and it's throwing it off in some way. Maybe the color is working perfectly for the target audience and for the overall message. And how so? Be specific. Don't just say, I think the color works, the typography works. Say why. Why do you think it works? Why do you think it doesn't work? How effective is each when it comes to shareability? You know, think about, you know, would it be easy to share in regards to maybe posting it on social media? Would it read clearly in that regards? For your citation, you might use articles that show examples of good balance or bad infographics. You can also find articles from experts that suggest what makes a successful infographic. So I'm going to look up effective and ineffective infographics. Just do a Google search here. I'm going to show you what I found with just doing that search. So just doing effective and ineffective graphics, you have a lot of different links here. Here's one, the good and the bad. It's a slide share. It's something that you could, slide through here. And it talks about why, kind of what we're kind of going through here. Too much data, for instance, this becomes more difficult to focus attention and turn off users for comparative information. So for this instance, this would be maybe not as ineffective because it's just too much, it's overwhelming. Unnecessary 3D. It may look cool, but can distort the way data needs to be represented. So, you might see something like that you might want to talk about that may not be working. There's graphs that don't add up. We talked about this one in last week's lecture. Don't try to combine different statistics into one graph. In this example, it adds up to 243% baby boomer. So make sure that, it all makes sense. It's adding up to 100% if you're breaking it down like this. Keep it simple. Viewers should be able to understand the information presented within a single reading. This is definitely kind of a little hard to read here and follow. So keep it simple. And then here's the good. So there's examples in here showing the good and the bad. Use pictures and icons. Partisan graphs are better. Column charts display multiple data, so that's much quicker and easier. And this is created by drawing a horizontal x-axis and a vertical number y-axis. Keep the design clean with enough space between data so it doesn't all run together. You have a nice section of each to kind of know how, what groups together. This is like a proximity, part of the proximity design principle here. Use simple color scheme. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're using too much color and it becomes confusing and hard to read. Or maybe the color isn't quite appropriate for it, where it's becoming harder to read because it's too, too contrasted or too bright. Keep your design consistent with your subject. You want to keep it so it's relative. If you have images in there that don't quite make sense with the message that you're trying to show, there's a disconnect. So use motifs that relate to your subject and its data. In this case, we talk about traffic. So, of course, everything is related to that. You have little dialing gauges, the little, the light, and then, everything kind of related to that, even the texture in the background. Include a relevant article with your infographic, if you're going that route. So this can definitely be used as a source for this particular discussion. There's also sites that show the 16, here's one with 16 useless infographics. So, and then they kind of explain on the side here why it's not really effective here. So they might be nice to look at, but are they really effective? So you kind of peruse through here. So there are definitely some sites, if you do general searches on here, that will give you kind of the good and the bad. Okay. So hopefully that'll kind of get you started thinking about what not to do in your regard, and for your infographic coming up, the do's and the don'ts, so that you're not making that same mistake here. All right, so basically we're going to be discussing this information. Let me go ahead and play this video in here. It talks about learning the 5 attributes that make a successful relay of information in an infographic. It's about 4 minutes here. And we'll kind of talk about it when it's over here.
Great infographics don't happen by accident. Rather, a carefully crafted infographic displays various attributes that contribute to its overall success. I've come up with a simple way to summarize these attributes into what I call CHART, the 5 keys to a great infographic. The first key is contrast. Contrast in a design creates tension and displays a clear distinction or difference, offering no ambiguity. In graphic design, contrast can be used to draw a viewer's attention to a specific area. For example, a splash of color amidst a grayscale image. But it's equally important when displaying data. Take, for example, a common question that you might find in a survey where respondents are asked to provide an answer on a Likert scale. In the world of research, using a Likert scale can help researchers gauge interest levels by forcing someone to choose from a range of options rather than just requesting a yes or no answer. But when you convert a Likert scale into a chart, such as a pie chart, you end up with a diluted answer, making it difficult to either use the data or to make a decision, or even to help a viewer understand the point that you're trying to make. You try to digest all this information, and it doesn't really result in any clear choice. To add contrast, you might consider dividing the data into clear parts, like yes and no, while still providing the original information should the reader decide to want to build their own opinion. Alternatively, you may just combine the values into a more general statement. This way, the point that you're trying to make gets across. The next key is hierarchy. Important in any composition or layout, you need to provide clear direction on how the viewer should look at the design. You must lead the eye from the most important elements to the least important. A variety of elements can be used to indicate hierarchy, including size, weight, color, and position. Keep in mind that you can also use graphic elements, such as lines or arrows, to help lead a viewer's eye from one part of your infographic to the next. The third key is accuracy. You have access to your data through all the research that you've done, and that data has led you to a conclusion. Don't be afraid to reveal that true data, as it allows your readers to believe what you're saying. Illustrator also allows you to be as precise as you need, so don't resort to eyeballing it. In addition, it's always best to reveal your sources so that your viewers know whether you're presenting your own opinion or if the data is coming from a trusted source. The fourth key is relevance. You might think that this is common sense, but don't provide information that will just confuse your reader. Extra noise will just reduce the impact of the point that you're trying to make. I say that you might think that this is common sense, but as a designer myself, it can sometimes be too hard to resist adding some cool graphic that you came up with, and then you might want to include it even though it doesn't contribute to your infographics story. A good way to protect yourself here is to have someone else review your designs. If they don't get the point right away, or if you find yourself having to explain it to them, you may have a relevance problem. Now, the fifth and final key is truth. Even if your data is accurate, it can be presented in a way that tells a false story. For example, putting two charts side by side will immediately force a viewer to compare the two. If the scale of the charts aren't even, the viewer likely won't realize that, leading to a false assumption. In these two charts, you might think that both solar and wind are similar, but they really aren't. Each chart uses a separate value scale, and technically, the data in each chart is valid. But when you present them side by side, it's easy to think that they're quite similar. When both charts are used in the same scale, however, it's readily apparent that solar and wind energy aren't really that similar at all. Scale can also be used to deceive a viewer. For example, these two line charts show the exact same data, but each design might force a viewer to come to a different conclusion. Remember that everything that you do in your infographic will either strengthen or weaken your story. Keeping these 5 key attributes at the forefront of your mind will help ensure that your infographic will be clear, beautiful, and great.
A member.
Okay, all very good advice there for sure. So let me go back here. Sorry, guys. It's just some things to think about when you're, deciding on how to visually and verbally communicate your infographic. So go ahead and read through your discussion to background here and go through the prompts. You can embed or link your graphic site and cite your sources. How to upload is how, if you're not sure how to do that, this is information on how to do that. And don't forget to respond to 2 separate peers on different days for possible full credit. All right. So we're just basically going to show, you're going to show an effective infographic and an ineffective infographic, what you believe it is. Make sure you're embedding that into your post so we can see, each one and don't have to click on it to upload it. And so that we can, all discuss this. Why do you think it's effective and why do you think it's not effective, the ones that you're showing? And when you're responding to your fellow peers, maybe you disagree about something that they're bringing up and maybe you show a different perspective to it. So that's always kind of a good thing to do if you see something in there that you maybe not agree with, and bring the facts in to support your perspective. Okay, let me know if you have any questions about that, but that's basically the discussion post for week 2. And like I said, get that initial post in before midnight tonight for possible full credit. So how do I tell a story? When creating infographics, you are using imagery to explain something abstract, helping the audience understand relationships between pieces of data and what those relationships mean. So we can kind of, as far as putting together visuals and verbal supportive messages there, you can show that data in a effective way so that you're explaining that in a story, visually. The same goes for judging what makes a good infographic. Looking at and comparing design is a good way to learn what to do or what not to do. When learning about a visual industry, you need to have visual examples of successful and unsuccessful designs to fully understand the differences, as words have a way to be left open to personal interpretation. So that's basically just saying, it's always good to see what works, what doesn't work in a design, and base it off of objective facts. You're basing it off of, okay, what about this works? Does the typography work? Think about the principles of design. That is the factual information. It's not, oh, well, I don't like this infographic because it uses the color pink, and I don't like the color pink. That's more subjective, okay? Because everybody has their own personal opinion based on their likes and dislikes. But what we want to do is we want to kind of critique these infographics in the discussion objectively. So we want to bring to the table some facts when we are saying why it works and why it doesn't work. We already looked at the short video about the 5 attributes. So hopefully that helped you kind of think about, not only just in the discussion, but also in your week 2 projects, how to, use those attributes, those 5 attributes for your own benefit for your design going forward. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick little break here and we'll get back to your week 2 assignment. I'm going to, today we're just going to go over your assignment 2 in your discussion, obviously we just did. So I'll do a demo, we'll talk about what you need to do for your assignment 2. And then tomorrow when we meet at the same time, we're going to go over your assessment 2. So we kind of break it up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break and we'll go forward with your assignment 2. All right, looks like 5 minutes is up here. Okay, so let's go over your week 2 assignment. I'm actually going to switch to, let's see here. Switch to my screen. All right, so don't forget this assignment is actually a continuation from week 1, your content strategy. So I'll go ahead and read through this. Actually, I won't read through this part. You guys can read through this background information. It just talks about, yeah, kind of what we were talking about, what makes a good infographic within, so that you're thinking about the aesthetic and then the factual information. So I'm going to go right to the prompt. This week, you're going to take your plan from week 1's assignment and bring it into action by designing the final infographic. Use the content strategy and outline to design an infographic poster depicting the internet usage across the world. So here are the instructions that you have to abide by, submission and assignment instructions. The document size needs to be 11 inches by 17 inches, portrait or landscape, so whichever orientation that you want to do, whichever makes sense for your design. And this is something you should be sketching out anyway, so you should kind of have an idea of how you're going to do that orientation-wise. Create the infographic in Illustrator. So I don't want to see anything in a pixel-based, pixel dependent like Photoshop. We don't want to use that. We want to do this solely in Illustrator. Use your content strategy from week 1 to arrange the content as a clear and understandable story. Use the graphing tools in Illustrator to create and customize the visuals of your graphs. Be sure to include the source of the data, no APA formatting needed. Use the principles of design and consider the components of an effective infographic. This project will be hypothetically intended for print, so set your color mode to CMYK. You can do that, right before you submit, before you save your actual project out. And I'll show you how to do that. So those are the assignment instructions that you need to follow through with. Submission instructions just tell you the name, the file name that it should be saved out as. Submit as a PDF file in CMYK color for grading. Add a JPEG of the project to your Behance portfolio site and copy and paste the link into the submission comment field. You're going to email the link to your FPA and CC your instructor, so it would be me, okay? And don't forget to keep your native file, which is your working file. If revisions are needed, you can definitely go back and revise this, especially for your portfolio. All right, and then you have your rubrics down here. You can definitely take a look at, make sure you're hitting upon all of these goals here, I should say, the criteria that's placed out beyond for this is kind of how we evaluate your work. So just make sure that you are checklisting that. Okay, let me know if you have any questions, but I'm going to go forward and just kind of show you how I would attempt this project in my own way. Just kind of give you some ideas, but try not to emulate what I'm doing. You want to go with your own content strategy and your own unique design for your project. I'm just going to kind of show you how I would approach the project, give you some tips and ideas going forward. Okay, so I'm going to open up Illustrator, and I'm going to share my screen here. Go File, New, and I'm going to choose, I don't know, there was 11 by 17. I'm going to have to customize it here. I'm going to do 11 by 17. I'm going to do portrait, I believe. And if you go to the advanced options, you can actually choose CMYK color. Make sure your raster effects are high, so 300 pixels per inch, and hit create. I'm just going to get rid of this other. So this is the size that you're looking at here. Okay, so I'm going to save this, just get this started here. Assignment 2, first and last name. I'm going to save this to my desktop as an AI file. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my content strategy, and I'm going to figure out how to go forward with this. I'm going to go a little bit differently with mine from the content strategy that you saw in my demo, just to give you kind of just another example of what you can do here. But just a little heads up, if you need to find any type of imagery for your infographic that is not like a wingding that's free or clip art that you can get, you know, for instance, I want to find a globe for mine because I want to kind of have that as the center of my infographic. You can go to sites that have royalty-free imagery that are high-res. Pixabay.com is one of them that I like to use a lot. And search for imagery in there that's, you know, free to use. So I can look up globe icon, for example, and say, you know, I want to use one of these for my project. I can click and download it and use it within my project. I'm going to click this one. I like that globe. Free download. I'm just going to see if I have to actually sign in here. Nope. Just download it. Save it to my desktop. I think it's a PNG file. Just export it for now. Desktop. Okay, and then maybe I want to find a texture for the background. So let's find, let's type in texture. And let's put in maybe technology. Something that's more technical based texture here. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So, you know, you can find some really cool backgrounds in here that you could utilize for your project. I'm trying to figure out what would work with mine because I want something very simple. So you might just kind of have this process to kind of go through before starting. You can change the color too, but let's see, this is kind of cool. So, you know, you can be more specific to a color if you don't want to change it. You want something close to what you're looking for, and you don't really want to change it up. There's some really cool textures in here. I think I'm just going to take this one. It's very simple. Might work really well. We'll see kind of how it goes. And I might not use it, but we'll see. Export it out on my desktop. All right. Once that's said and done, I'm going to go back to Illustrator. Okay. And I'm going to focus my attention on creating my visual for my project. So I'm going to focus on a pie chart. You can do yours in different ways. You don't have to do it the way that I do it. But I'm going to go and actually choose pie chart. It might be, and you might see column graph tool first. You might need to click on that and, you know, pick the one that you want to use. The pie graph works for this particular concept because I'm going to have it kind of going around the globe, and it's going to show a pie chart of the percentage of world usage, internet usage that the information was given. So I'm going to click right on the actual, click and drag here, the size that I want the circle to be. Let me look. Shift here. Okay. Once I let go of that selection, this little preset chart comes up, and it starts out with 1.00. So if I want to go all the way around with my percentages, I want to fill up each one of these cells horizontally. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my chart, which was given to you from the beginning in your content strategy, of each percentage for the world internet usage per region. And I'm going to put in each percentage of each region. Okay, so I'm going to say North America was 8%. So I'm going to put 8 in this cell. Middle East was about 4%. So I'm going to put 4 there. Latin America, Caribbean was 10%. Europe was 17%, or is. Okay. So I'm just putting in the percentages. Asia was 50, they're the biggest ones, so 50 here. Africa was 10%. Oceania, Australia was 1%. And I believe that's it. So when I add all of these, this total up, this should add up to 100%. If it doesn't add up to 100%, then this obviously isn't going to make sense. So it has to add up to 100% for this to actually work, or add up to 100. So when I add all of these totals in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it should add up to 100. Hold on one second, guys. I have somebody ringing my doorbell. Okay, sometimes that happens during a live lecture. It's the UPS guy ring my doorbell there. Okay, when I'm done with this percentage, if I'm completely done and I want this pie chart to be set to go, I just check on this apply check mark here, and you'll see the actual pie chart being created. So the 8% is, you know, everything's kind of divided up. You see the half is obviously the half, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of rotate it based on the information that you have or whatever you want to start out with. But you kind of have to know which one goes with which. So you should have this kind of marked out beforehand. Okay. When you're all said and done, I'm just going to click on this little red button there. And now I can actually, you know, move this around wherever I want it to be moved. Actually, I'm going to reset this to be, instead of having it, let's see here. Okay, we have inches. I'm going to set this so that it is oriented a different way. So we're going to do 11. But let's see if we can change this a little bit more easily here. There should be a way to change this so that custom, let's do, there we go, tabloid. Okay, so it's 11 by 17. I'm going to do it. I think this will work a little bit better this way. So I can get this a little bit bigger. If you want to get this bigger and you already did your pie chart, just double click on the scale tool in your menu bar and go ahead and scale this up. Just make sure everything is checked here. Scale corners, scale strokes and effects. And it's a uniform scale that you're doing, so it's not, there we go. Okay, so you can make it bigger if you want. I think that'll work a little bit better. Okay. You can ungroup it and actually select each part of this by using your direct selection tool. So you can change the color and so forth. Okay, so now what I want to do, I'm going to actually rotate this so that 50% is covered here. I guess it doesn't matter. It's completely up to you on how you want to do that, but you know, if you want to just play around with that, it's fine. All right, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the stroke off of here, stroke off of all these, put a non-stroke, is I'm going to go ahead and pull in that image of the world in here so that I can pull the colors out of it for my pie chart. So I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to find that world image that I actually downloaded from pixabay.com. And I just kind of click and drag that out. It has a nice little drop shadow to it. I'm going to make this just slightly smaller than the pie chart and center align. If I want to center align, let's group this and then select the image and do a shift select, and then we can go ahead and align it. Where's my, this is aligning based on my blue bounding box here, which is not going to work because it's taking in consideration the drop shadow. So I have to eyeball it. If it didn't have that drop shadow on there, it'd be a different story. That looks pretty good. So now at this point, I can actually take my eyedropper tool and start picking colors out of here. So I'm going to bring up my swatch palette. Let's get this so it's a little bit easier to see here. What kinds of colors in here? Let's do a new folder. We'll name this folder Assignment 2. And go ahead and take some samples in there. And once you select it, just drag and drop it into Assignment 2. Just grabbing some colors that will go with the rest of the pie chart here. And then you got gray as well. Okay. So now what I can do is I can select part of this. Let me ungroup it here. And I can add color to this based on, you know, the colors here. I'm going to make this just slightly lighter. Make this blue. I want this to be dark, but I want this to be darker. There we go. Actually, let's go darker. No, we'll go darker with the thinner ones. I'm talking to myself, you guys, sorry. I'll move this out of the way so I can actually get to it. Just make this darker gray. And a sliver here. I guess a little darker. Let's do that again. Double click on the swatch if you want to make it darker. And I'm just going to go a little darker with that. Okay. And go a little lighter with this. And then you could add gradients to this if you want. You know, if you, let's go up to gradient. Just drag and drop that into your gradient, take off that stop, and you can kind of get some nice gradients to this if that's something that you kind of want to do. Some of this might be a little much for this. You could do a circular radial gradient if you want, kind of play around with it. Bring up my gradient again. Let's throw this in here. And I'm going to throw a lighter color on top of here. So there we go. Same thing with this one. I could throw a dark one in here. This one can be white. Flip it around here. Just giving it just a little bit of a dimension, I guess you could say. Okay, once that's done, I'm just gonna leave those alone. I'm gonna put this over top and see how that looks, because I do have a drop shadow on this particular image that might make it look a little different here. I think that looks pretty good. Has some really cool dimension to it. Okay, save this for now. And then let's choose a background. I think let's do a square here. So I'm going to take a square rectangle. Actually, this is what I'm going to do. Throw that down here. And then I'm going to go File, Place. And I place, I don't know if this is actually going to work, but we'll see. Place in the background. It's going to be a little bigger than what my document size is. That's okay. Send it to the back. And I'm going to see, this is quite busy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this square that I just did, put it right back on top. I'm going to fill this with black. Shift, select both the texture and my block and send it back. And then what I want to do is I want to make this black just a little gradient, opacity wise. I want to make it so that I can see the background behind it. And now I can't see my opacity up here. Hold on one second, you guys. All my windows are in the way. Okay, here we go. Opacity. I'll bring this down. We want some contrast here, so we're definitely going to bring it down. Say 95%, 94. That looks pretty good. Okay, now we want to kind of trim this so that we don't have this extra background in here. So what you need to do is select the top square, shift select the bottom background, go up to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. Oh, we lost our transparency. Let's see if we can do that again. That's something that you might actually have to do over top of this. Oops. Yeah. For some reason, it kind of blends it all together so you don't have that opacity anymore within that image and that background. So we'll just have to create this again. 95% is what we were looking at. That looks pretty good. Okay. So you can add texture in the background, and you just need that right amount of contrast. So let me group this so it's not going anywhere. So that, you know, I'm going to have type over top of this. So I'm going to take my type tool, and let me just choose white for now. And I'm going to put my headline. So internet users by region. Why didn't that type white? White type. And then you can go ahead and choose your character, your typography. Let me go up here to bring that palette up. So go to Window, Type, Character. So I have that ready to go, and I can kind of play around with this. I'm going to do all caps and just see what that looks like. And then just go through what I think is the best typeface for this. Okay, this is BBoss. This is a nice neutral font that would go really well with this particular project because it, you know, it's neutral in regards to its overall look. Okay, I'm just centering the line, aligning this. So that's a good thing. You want it to be a little bit more neutral. You don't want it to look feminine or more masculine. You want it to be more of a neutral typeface for this particular subject. Okay, so now I have to put in the percentages based on what I put in here, and the regions kind of pointing to each of those. So it's completely up to you. You can use the line tool to do that. You can use, you know, bubbles. I'm going to do a line tool here, and I'm just going to, whoops, draw out this, you know, thin line with maybe white. And I can even do dots if I want, you know, the particular line stroke. Let's do thinner stroke. We want white. And let's do a little bit. We want to be, let's see, right now it's just a straight line here. Zoom in. So you have different brushes you can create. That, you know, you could choose dashed ones, you know, for coupons or whatever. Kind of play around with, see what you like. Could be relative to what you're doing. or you could just choose a simple, you know, a simple line. This one is actually in black, which I'm going to keep it with white. That's fine. And then I'm going to take my type tool and I'm going to type in the region, so it'd be Asia. Let's type that white. I'm going to go with the same typeface, so the BBOS is the type there. I'm going to go a little smaller, 14 point, Asia, and then the number. Oops, let's do like a little colon there, 8075631, and then put 50%. Now, what I could do is make this like a little bit bigger. So what I mean by that, let's see here, oops. You know, I can make Asia bigger so you can see Asia first, and then, you know, make 50% the same size as Asia. Just kind of adjust your leading, oops, so that, you know, it's equal. And sometimes that's hard to do because you have two sets of things going on here. Oops. That actually might work. Let's see. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll align it so that it's right aligned, so that we're aligning it with the line itself. Oops, I need paragraph alignment. So think about that. Think about design-wise, you know, what works. Use your principles of design. So that is very clear and easy to understand. It's pointing to this section here. We can even go into the section itself, and so on and so forth. Okay, this part, and then what we could do is just copy and paste this to this part here, and then plug in your numbers. Is this aligning here? Let's see. Where's my rulers? Show rulers. Oops. Yep. All right, and then I can type in for this one, oops, would be Europe. And they would have a different number, of course, based on, you know, that information that you have. Now, this might not be the most updated information. This is what I have in my notes, just very quickly. So just make sure yours is right based on the website that was given. And then this is 17%. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this over here. And what we could do is make this path a little shorter. And we might have to rearrange all of this. We'll have to see how it works. This would be Latin America. Caribbean. And then this would be 10%. need to shift this to the right just a little bit. I'm going to take a line down here into this area and make sure that that's all connected. There we go. Gets a little tricky when you get over here because, you know, the information gets crammed in a little bit more, but okay. This would be North America over here. And I'm just going to shift this to be boink right there. This information would now be maybe left justified because, you know, it changes from the one side to the right side to the left side. So this would be North America. Oops, keep doing that. 320 360. And then the percentage would be 8%. All right, so the next one would be copy and paste that. And we can just take the line tool and just have it go from here into there. This is 1.75. Just make sure it's the same width. Yeah. So this one would be Middle East. 146 972 123, and this would be 4%. Okay, so we got Europe, Latin America, Middle East, North America. %. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. We have Africa. Okay, so Africa must be this, and then the 1% must be in here. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. We have one too many slices here for some reason. So I'm going to take off, ungroup this. This is why I was getting a little confused. Oops, I'm going to make this the same color. Swatches. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we just need Africa, right? Africa, which is here. And Africa is 388,376,491. and that's 10%. And just make sure that visually it makes sense. You know, 10% should look a little bit bigger than 8%. When you do the pie graph, it should obviously plot that all out for you. Let's pull this down so it does visually make sense. Just kind of double check it. I need to squeeze in one in between here. So we need to get one in here. We're gonna pull this up a little bit. And realign that. Just get enough space in between these so they're not all crammed together. I would probably try to position this kind of right across from there first. Might make more sense. So a lot of shifting around, just kind of make sure it's visually working here. Try to be as equal as I can. And then kind of adjust your lines to make sense for where it's pointing at. Okay. Okay, now we just need to change this one to not North America. Oceania, Australia, 28180,356. And that's 1%, so it should be small. I'm going to bump this out just slightly. I'm going to bump all of them out. Just so that Oceania and Australia isn't right next to the globe there, and then adjust everything. You can step it out. I just left the just like I did here with the other ones. Okay. So let me hide my guides here. This is basically what I have so far. You can help try to balance this out, but you know, this is the information that I have. I am actually going to make this a little smaller. I'm going to do a select all and scale this down about 20%. I think this is, let's see if we're centering this now a little bit better. Pull this down so I can have room for the headline. And then just balance it out so that it's not super close to the headline. All right, and then this is where you can kind of make it, you know, change up a little bit with the color and kind of play around with some stuff. Just make sure, you know, you're having enough contrast for color to be able to read, to be able to read, especially the smaller type. With my swatches here. But I can make that the same color blue, or maybe my titles. like that same color yellow or a lighter blue. So just making the regions that blue. You might want to even make a pop of color for the percentages so it pops, maybe just like a pop of yellow. Something different that's pulls the eye into the percentages. So it's more of a monochromatic color scheme with a pop of color for the percentages. Do something like that, you know, where it's kind of showing the pop of color in there. So, you know, kind of play around with it, see what works. You can try to help balance this out a little bit. Maybe, you know, pulling certain things out, you know, maybe not flushing left, kind of what I did here, maybe stepping it out might look better. Pulling some of these out might balance it out. But, you know, this is just a really kind of a good approach to this particular infographic. You're showing the charts, the percentages, I believe, you know, very clearly. You can even get the percentages even to be bigger, point size wise, but you know, I think this is definitely effective. All of my imagery in here is relative to the subject. I have contrast, I have hierarchy, and everything's kind of in position here. You know, all the information is correct in here as well. All right, when I'm ready to send or to save, because don't forget we're going to be uploading this also to your Behance website. So let me show you how to step this out for saving requirements here. So let's go back to the actual assignments specs. Okay, we named it, you know, we're gonna save it out as a PDF and make sure it's CMYK color for grading, which we already have that in because we saved it initially in CMYK color, so we're good. And I can show you how to check for that if you don't know and you already started your project. Then you're gonna add a JPEG of the project to your Behance portfolio site and copy paste the link to the submissions comment field. You're gonna email that link to your advisor and then also CC me on, so carbon copy that to me in that email. Okay, so let's go back. We're gonna save a PDF, but I'm gonna show you real quick how to check your color mode just to make sure you're in the right color mode. Let me pull this up here. So just go up to File and Color Mode, Document Color Mode, and you'll see if it's RGB, switch to CMYK. Save your AI file, and then also when you're ready, you can export as, and you want to choose, oh, I'm sorry, cancel that. I'm in like Photoshop mode here. You're going to go File, Save as PDF, Adobe PDF. You can do smallest file size, that's fine. Click OK. And then before you close out of here, save it as, export, save as a JPEG. CMYK. We're going to switch this to RGB. Actually, let me see real quick before I tell you that. Yeah, because we're going to save this JPEG and we're going to place it online. So you can go ahead and change that to RGB here. Max is fine. 300 pixels per inch is fine. Click OK. That's where that JPEG is what you're going to upload to your Behance site. Okay, so let me double click on my PDF just to show you what my final PDF looks like. And you should definitely check your PDF too and just make sure it looks good before you submit it. Here's the PDF. You can add the small copy somewhere too of where you found this factual information, which is in the assignment details, I believe, in week 1. So the small copy source information, I forgot to add that to it. Okay, and then I open up my Behance. If you don't have a Behance account, it's free. Just go to behance.net. I already have an account for my professional portfolio. So yours is going to look slightly different when you log in. You might have some projects from other classes in here, and that's good. If not, you'll be starting from scratch, so you won't see anything on this side. So what you'll want to do is you'll just want to create a project. It's going to load your editor. And you're going to go to upload files. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And you're going to upload that JPEG that we exported out. We're going to continue. And our project title, we can name this infographic. I mean, you could put even the class number if you want to, 40 infographic project, whatever you want to do. This is how it'll look, you know, within your thumbnail. So maybe you want to zoom in on a specific area here. Crop and continue, and that's just for your actual thumbnail. Basic information, you can add creative fields here, so you can, I don't know if they have infographic, let's see. Information architecture, icon design, maybe illustration, typography. Let's go to graphic design. I would just do graphic design, keep it general. Tools used, you know, you can add in here Adobe, Illustrator, whatever tools that you want to add in there. Everything else looks good. Hit publish, and this will publish your, excuse me, publish your work. This is where your link will come up here. You want to copy and paste that into your email to your FPA and CC me that on your email. That's basically what it is. So if you go back to your profile, just want to see what it looks like. Here it is. You can click on it. You can edit it. You can delete it if you want. But here it is. This little, when you go back to the thumbnail, this is where you can edit it or delete it or unpublish, promote it. If you wanted to promote it, you just click on promote. And then this is the link you'll want to copy and paste. So make sure you select the whole thing, copy and paste. I'm going to go, excuse me, and delete this because I just wanted to show you how to upload it. Delete. That's how you delete it, and it deletes. Okay. So don't forget to do that step. So you'll be saving it out and uploading the PDF for grading, but then you'll also be adding the JPEG of the project to your Behance portfolio site. Paste the link into the submissions comment field so that we can click on it and see that you have it in there. Email the link to your FPA and then CC me. If you don't know who your FPA is, just send me an email. I'll get that information to you. But just make sure you're copying me on that email as well. All right. Let me know if you have any questions going forward. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but you know, hey, you might get stuck on something. Let me know. You don't have to do a pie chart. I just wanted to show you what I did in regards to my my demo, you can do like a map chart, kind of similar to this. This is an example of world etiquette, showing different regions. You could do something similar to this, you know, where you're kind of showing the statistics within the map view, and then also the people percentages, and then the list. This one's a little bit more complicated, but some examples here to show you. So the different ways you can visually show this, just make sure it reads quickly and easily and follows, you know, follows a story where it starts, finishes, begins, and then, you know, ends as a story. Okay, so we'll get into your assessment later. We'll talk about that tomorrow more so. If you have any questions, let me know. I am here to help you guys, so don't feel like you're bothering me in any way. Hopefully this will help you going forward with your projects. Tomorrow, we're going to do your assessment 2 review. And if you have any questions, you can come in, listen to the lecture, ask me the questions. We can do a critique. You know, it's completely up to you guys. All right, well, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. So I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, reach out to me if you have any questions. Get those initial discussion posts in for week 2. And hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow during the same time for lecture 2. All right, have a great day, guys.